Your support is recruiting, empowering, and engaging advocates among all the other people involved in kids' lives. I like to say children, but children's lives. All right. So my name is Prakan Calhoun. I'm with Detroit Champions for Hope. So we're a parent engagement and advocacy organization in Detroit. And we're also part of Hope Starts Here, which is again a citywide initiative to really build the early childhood ecosystem in Detroit that's equitable, accessible, affordable, and sustainable, and high quality for families, children families in Detroit. So that's what we're doing. So welcome, thank you all for choosing this one to advocacy, because advocating is so essential to the work that we all do for children and families. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Could you grab one of those as you come in? Excellent. So what we have here, this is my time. I'm going to talk for 2 minutes about this, then we're going to get to the panel. They're going to talk about their advocacy work. These is what we call at Detroit Champions for Hope our 6-a-days. There's a 6 free and easy things that a parent or caregiver can do with a child that boost brain development, early literacy skills, and bond between caregiver and child. That is encourage, hug, talk, sing, read, and play. All these things, again, boost brain development. You know, the connection between the neurons. All right, folks coming in. Early literacy skills and bond between caregiver and child. So I find I do them with myself. I do them with my older children, but you know they're effective for babies even while they're in the womb. You can sing, talk, read, play, hug, talk to them, and encourage them. So these 6 days, find out some more about them later. So this is one way that you can advocate for your children and your families and for yourself by doing these things. This is an act of advocacy, doing these things. All right, so here you go. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to our illustrious panel. First up, to my right, we have Jasmine Mitchell. Jasmine Mitchell is a community leader and activist from Detroit, Michigan, dedicated to social justice, racial equity, equality, and access to education and healthcare. With more than 15 years of experience in childcare, she focuses on supporting families and creating safe spaces for the next generation. Jasmine. Next to Jasmine, we have Kyle Richard, who works closely with students facing housing and food insecurity. We're witnessing how poverty and violence affected their education. As a dedicated community advocate, he attended Lansing City Council meetings and served 2 years as co-chair of the Greater Lansing Democratic Socialists of America. Kyle Richard. Next to Kyle, we have Michael Aaron Jr. Michael is a passionate advocate for men, children, and families, providing support and resources to promote family development. Community service is the foundation of his work, and he has recently been certified as a community health worker and a certified car seat technician. Everyone knows about getting those car seats in. It's not just a click. You gotta get it between the seat is hidden. It's crazy. All right. Meet Michael. And we have on the end there next to Michael, we have Jen. Jen works, what's your last name? I'm sorry.
Peacock.
Jen Peacock. Jen Peacock works to transform Michigan's juvenile justice system through research and advocacy. She started her career at the Aspen Institute Center for Native American Youth, leading national initiatives in foster care and civic engagement. Meet Jennifer. All right, so our first question for the panel, they're gonna get to introduce themselves to you, with me. And the first question I have for you guys is, what is an ideal advocate? Or what are some qualities that an ideal advocate has?
Hello everyone, so I am Jasmine Mitchell and I'm the Affordable Child
So I really hold it close and dear to my heart. I've been doing it since I was a teenager. It all started just helping out at home, having a mother who couldn't afford childcare, and her having friends and her having a community that she was a part of that also could not afford childcare, and just stepping in and really helping out. So that's how I got started, and I think the perfect advocate to me would be a person who just stands up and speaks, but not only for themselves and for their children, but for their children around them, for the community that's around them. Someone who isn't afraid to say how they feel or how others feel. I think that a great advocate also is someone who is really engaged in their community, someone who's engaged in what's going on, what's happening, wanting to let others know what's going on in their community, having others also eager to want to go on and see what is going on around them. So to me, that's what makes an ideal advocate.
Good afternoon, everyone. Kyle Richard. I'm actually here as onboarding lead for Rent is Too Damn High, which is a local tenants union here in Lansing. And for me, an ideal advocate, I think about an advocate who is grounded in their own story, grounded in their own self-interest. Sometimes in the advocacy space, you can have people who show up from a really altruistic, selfless place, and that's good, and we need those folks around. But if you are always in that altruistic, selfless place, you're going to get burnt out. And so an ideal advocate knows why they're doing the work for them. And that may sound selfish, but it's about really finding that balance between selflessness and selfishness, and that's your self-interest. And so that's what I would say to that question.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Aaron Jr. And before I get into myself, I'm saying I'm graduating an autistic son this year. So when I go home, advocacy is a big part of my life. But when I go home, I've got some chores to do before his prom tomorrow. So just know I'm very happy to be here. But as soon as I'm done, I gotta go. Talk for a little bit, and then I gotta get out of here. Okay, but I work with the Detroit Health Department as a fatherhood coordinator, and we work with men, but I'm also kind of encapsulated in the maternal child health division. Right, so we work with Sister Friends, we work with Safe Sleep program to not only bring men the resources that we feel like they need, but also the needs of their family and their children, right? Including so much more. So we'll talk about that later. But we're talking about advocacy today. In addition to what Kyle and I'm so sorry, Jasmine said. I think that advocate has to be resourceful. Right? That advocate has to kind of know where to go, where to look for things. He's got to have an education as well. As Kyle said, if you come out here very passionate about something and you're speaking directly from passion, you may not have the knowledge and the understanding of what it is you're talking about. So we want to make sure we're educated in what we're speaking on, and that advocate just has to have that passion. He has to have a passion for not only himself, but for others, his community, for other people that look like him, that are suffering through things that he or she may be suffering from.
Hi everyone, I'm Jen. I'm the Michigan Center for Youth Justice Policy Director. So a lot of my lens to this conversation is going to be coming from that policy, legal kind of challenge and change making. I would say for me, it really boils down to empathy. I'm often in positions and at tables with people I just want to yell, these are our kids, right? We're asking for really simple things. We just want kids to have attorneys. We want kids to be close to home. We want kids to have care. But I have to kind of hold myself to have empathy for this person that I don't see eye to eye with, to keep it human, keep it, disagreements are good, arguments aren't in policy, and so how do I disagree and still have empathy for that person who maybe they haven't been exposed to the same things that unfortunately a lot of our kids have, and how do I help them get that knowledge and that experience? So for me, it's empathy.
All right, thank you. All right, our first question we have for Jasmine. What's one thing you wish every adult understood about their potential to be a change maker in a young person's life?
Yeah, one thing I think I wish adults would understand is that everyone's a superhero. Just because you don't have a cape on your back, or just because you aren't a celebrity, or you aren't someone that you think that younger people may look up to, you really can be an idol to them. You can't really be their superhero in their eyes. And I think just really engaging with them, having conversations, letting them know that they're heard, letting them know that you're here to support them. That's all it really takes. And I think understanding as adults that children need us. Our youth needs us. So as long as we can be there for them, they will never let us down. They will always come back to us for our support. They will always come back to us for our guidance. And we just have to know that we are raising our future and that we just need to know that we are superheroes. Like, all of us are superheroes in one way or another. We all have changed a child's life, whether we're a caregiver, whether we're a parent, whether we just was a teacher or a coach. I just think really realizing our powers.
Thank you. Michael, oh, you wanted to jump in on that?
Yeah, if I could, I think a lot of the times parents are doing things that they don't know are titled advocacy, or they don't know that they're doing things that are kind of not necessarily above and beyond, but what a lot of parents aren't doing, right? So we have to not only let them know that these are the things, right? These are the things that we should do, but we also have to teach them the way. It's not just going from an idea to the President of the United States. It's got to go through a few channels, right? And we're here to teach them those particular channels because as the men that I speak with, we've all got a disagreement with a particular entity, right? One or two of us, pecan, it may ruffle a few feathers, but now we have to figure out how can we organize, how can we bring our message together so that we can now take this empowered message to whoever it is that we're trying to get to change, be it a legislator, be it a representative, whatever it is, and figure that thing out. But again, it comes from a teaching perspective. Our parents are doing that. Before our kids get to school, before they get to their first education source, they've already learned a number of things from their parent. I like to make sure our men and women are aware of that. Before your child got to its first teacher, be it pre-K or whatever, you have taught them how to walk, you've taught them basic forms of communication, they know how to ask for things, so on and so forth, and this came from you. We want them to know that they're their first child's educator.
Right. Kind of building off of that, you talked about working with men. How is it recruiting, retaining men or male advocates in this work? Because I know, we're obviously in early childhood or children, discussing children. It's a female-dominated space. We have a lot of men in the room today, so I'd like to see that balance. So how is it in terms of your work, working directly with men and recruiting and retaining them?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's a difficult space. Even as a man, helping other men, it's a difficult space because again, we're talking about vulnerabilities. We're talking about them, lowering their standard in regards to what they would typically do when they're speaking to colleagues or friends and things of that nature. And then what I have to do is just kind of let them know, regardless of what I hear from you, I'm here to serve you. I'm here to help you. I'm here to lock you into resources or put you in place of a resource that can help what you've discussed with me today. What we have to do, and it's a long-term thing, it's not necessarily a short-term thing because what ends up happening is these men come in with these singular arguments, right? But I'm trying to help them understand that this is not a singular argument. You are just a voice, but if you raise your voice in this crowd here, you're gonna have some men that are gonna stand up and support you and saying, hey, I'm going through that as well. You're gonna also have some men that are gonna stand up and say, I went through that and here's what I did, and be able to provide them with some outreach or an outlook that is positive in nature and it's refreshing. It'll allow men to not only open themselves up a little bit more, but trust this process a little bit more. Now I can invite my buddy in and say, hey man, I was over here and got some good resources, I got some good information from this program over here. You should come, man. And that's what manhood is about, fatherhood, that's what this is all about.
All right, thank you. All right, Kyle.
Yeah.
So what does an empowered advocate look like in your community, and how do you help someone grow into that role? We know you work with Rent's Too Damn High, so it's a heated space that you're in.
It depends if there's landlords there.
So what does an empowered advocate look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, similar to what I said at the opening, an empowered advocate is grounded in their story, is grounded in their self-interest. I'm with the Rennes to Dam High doing housing work because when I was a teacher here in Lansing, I saw the impact that housing had on my students. I had students where, never misbehave, all of a sudden they're having a bad day, pull them out in the hallway, what's going on? Well, I'm sleeping at grandma's, I'm couch surfing, I'm bouncing around, I'm homeless. And or we got no lights or water at home. And so seeing how that impacted my students led me to the work that I'm doing. And I think an empowered advocate is able to kind of draw those lines and connect those dots within the context of their own life. And then how do you help someone grow into that role? In the Rennes to Dam High space, we talk a little bit about how, can we empower anybody? Or is empowerment something that has to come from within that person? And so I think, we talk in Rennes to Dam High about agitation, about, well, why do you think that? Well, where's that coming from? And like really trying to who is this person that I'm talking to? And because a lot of us are walking around, do we even know who we are? And I know there was huge periods of my life where I didn't, where I was just sort of like moving off instinct, moving off even reactions. And so like having those conversations, going through kind of sometimes it's going to be like an agitational conversation. I like to be disagreements are good, but arguments are bad. And it's okay to like discover where those disagreements are, and like encourage people to, when you find that common ground, to stand up together. And so helping people, it's those agitational conversations. And there's actually a quote from, I'm not going to get the whole quote, but there's a quote from Frederick Douglass that is essentially, those who want to organize or to organize power, and without agitation want crops without rain, or they want rain without thunder. And in order to you're gonna have to have hard conversations with people to get them to recognize the power that's within themselves and actually step into it.
Thank you.
Can I add something?
Okay.
Please.
Yeah, I love what you said, Kyle, about agitation, and I think also about just sharing lived experiences and storytelling. Like when you connect with someone, seeing where the issue lies between you guys. Like if I meet someone and I'm able to be vulnerable with them and tell them how I work in around this issue and how I can assure them that their voice will not go unheard, I feel like it gives them more power to want to speak up, to want to step into those shoes, to want to lead that role as an advocator. I think that also letting them know that they are heard and they are seen. I think a lot of times, sometimes people don't want to share their stories or do not want to say exactly what's going on. For instance, when you had related to the children at the school and not wanting to talk about how they're, couch surfing or, just having a bad day and not wanting to bring it up. It takes a lot. Like he had to pull them out of the classroom to kind of get on their level to, speak with them to see, hey, what's going on. So I think sometimes giving people the space and the time that they need, and also letting people know that you're here for them and that we're going to make a difference. And it may take some time, but we're going to try to make a difference. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah, and kind of building off that, the students and children who are kind of at risk, couch surfing, so dealing with homelessness and things like that. Jen, you work in the juvenile justice space. What are some of the tools you use to kind of to advocate and to share the story around juvenile justice to attract, retain, and educate advocates in that space?
Yeah, so working with young people, especially in the juvenile justice space, you have to see them as a whole being, right? Like that's foundational. These young people are coming with serious histories, complex family lives, trauma from being impacted by the carceral system. And a lot of these young people, we don't have a minimum age in the state of Michigan. So a young person as young as 10 could have gone through the system, right? I might meet them when they're 16 and they're just out, or maybe they're 20 now, but that's still pretty fresh if you spent the bulk of your young years incarcerated. And so for us and how we kind of approach kind of building that, it's one, go to their village, right? That's barbershops, that's their coaches, teachers, I don't want to just go to their probation officer, right? That's not always, it sometimes can be, but it's not always the most trusted adult in their life. So go where the trust brokers are, let them know what, we're offering as an organization. So we have a fellowship program, they're paid, they're trained, they're paid for any additional speaking time that they decide to do in their advocacy, right? So we're compensating them, and I tell them, you're both my mentor, right? Because you should have mentors on each age group, right? Above you and below you. But also you're my colleague. Like when we come to Lansing, they're here right now down the street. I'm at the table with them, and I perceive them as a colleague, and I talk to them like a colleague. Because their lived experience and expertise is super valid. Maybe they didn't go to college, but that kid has probably lived a lot more life than I have. And so for us to build and support those young advocates and bring them into the fold, it's recognizing their whole being and recognizing I might just be a blip, but they can come, but they know I'm here and they can come back and forth. So when our program ends next month, if they want to hang out and come by anytime, that door's always open. But if they're ready to stretch their wings and be done, I have to respect that, because this is a reciprocal relationship. And if they're good for a beat, I have to respect that and kind of hold that close. Even though I miss them, we always want the young people around. But I think in this work, when it is so emotionally draining, to your point of storytelling, we have to recognize as advocates, it's not always our place to ask them to even share their story.
Great. So at this point, I want to really open it up to the floor and to the panels to really ask questions and have a discussion amongst ourselves. You guys came here to get some specific information. You chose this for a reason, and we have some excellent folks up here. So, and you're also experts in what you do. So, any questions or comments, reactions to what you've heard or what you're thinking about?
Let me jump in just real quick. As we go into our discussion phase, I want everyone here, like I said, I work with families, but I work with men a lot based upon my own things that I've gone through in my life that I'm able to share with them and everything. But I want you guys to understand, a lot of the times, as Jill just talked about trauma, right? I want to say that even before they get to the stage of being incarcerated as young men, men are dealing with trauma, a lot of it, literally a lot of it. So I want to just say, as we deal with men and as we work with men, I want you to just keep that in mind. Approach them teddy bearishly, okay? Approach them ticklishly, okay? Even though it may not work all the time, and we know everything is not always work all the time, but you're gonna catch them. What is it? What's the saying, Brooklyn, about catching bees? Well, whatever it is, you can get more honey.
Catch more flies.
See, it's
honey,
get honey is what we're trying to do, right? So is what we're attempting to do, right? So again, please go out here, talk to these men, find out what they need, supply them with that. If you go out and as I say, if I ask you for something and the next week that thing is there, I can start building up a trust and a rapport with you. I can believe in what you're saying. You definitely were someone that was on your word and did what you said you were gonna do. I can loosen my rope a little bit and I can start talking to you a little bit more. I can maybe start asking for a little bit more. But we've got to start somewhere to get these men to open up to us a little bit more so we can provide the services that they really need. Because we've got to deal with some of this anger that has not been dealt with. We got to deal with some of these issues of abandonment. We got to deal with some of these other issues that we were not taught as men. How to be a father. My dad's not there. So I'm learning from wherever I can pick bits and pieces up from, right? Sorry about that, guys.
It's okay. It's okay.
So I guess it's more towards you, Jasmine, with your current field. So child care directors, child care owners, we have a resource in our parents, but they're so busy. How do we get them to understand that a 15-minute call maybe once a week is gonna make a difference? Like how do you turn them into an army of advocates? Because if we have 80 kids in that center, you have 80 plus adults that can be doing that advocacy. Like, how do you convince them that 15 minutes of their time is really worth it?
Yeah, of course, and I actually think this may be one of our questions that we have up, so I think it's an amazing question. I think when coming together, kind of building trust and building relationship, and I know sometimes it's like, hey, 15 minutes, all we're asking is for 15 minutes of your time, but that could be 15 minutes that a mom could be putting her baby in the bathtub, or 15 minutes that they could be making dinner, or 15 minutes that they could be throwing a load of laundry in the washer. So I think it's coming together and trying to have conversations about when there are good times, but I also think having some kind of incentive, and it may not have to be something extreme. It could be maybe something as small as, okay, we provided dinner tonight. So when you guys come in, we have dinner. Don't worry about having to go home and feed you or your children. You could just come right on in, attend the meeting, and then when you go home, you can get your children ready for bed. Or, hey, we're giving out we're doing a raffle for a small care kit for a mother. And that mother may say, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and attend because I really need to spend some extra dollars on myself for a care kit, but I can't afford it right now. But if I go here tonight, then maybe you win, and then I'll have the things that I need for the rest of the week. And I think not just incentives, because people are here to do the work and they want to show up, but I think incentives always help. I know a lot of times mothers don't have, as I was mentioning, the time or even the gas. It could be a time where, hey, I have to pick my children up when I have to go home and I have to come back across town to attend this meeting. I also think trying to find other ways to have the meeting than in person. I know a lot of times Zoom is good, even Google Meets, maybe even FaceTime. And maybe can't get all 80 parents to do FaceTime or do Zoom, but saying like, hey, let's see if we can get 10 parents this week to do FaceTime. And then next week or in 2 weeks, we're gonna see if we can get maybe 15 parents to show up in person. And then just kind of go from there. It's definitely gonna start slow. It's gonna seem like almost like impossible. And that's because we are working with mamas and caregivers who are extremely, extremely busy. So it's gonna seem almost impossible, but it's not impossible. And if you like, I definitely wouldn't mind helping out. So if you wanna reach out to me, we could definitely have a one-on-one, or I can maybe help out with reaching out to caregivers and mamas and see if we could get them in the room so we can have these conversations because they are needed.
Could I build on that? So part of our work is we're dealing with folks who are just maxed out, right? A lot of these systems, you have not only life to deal with, but these systems that are just bearing down to their necks. So what I've learned in the policy space of things is making it as simple as possible. Like the lowest key impact, we break it up into tiers. So like today, these kids coming to Lansing, that's tier 3 for us. That is, you are committed, you're there, being anywhere in person is a lot. Some of these kids, we had to book them cars because they don't have licenses, right? So removing those barriers. But tier 1 is, are you willing to write your email down? And then when I email you or text you a link to sign a letter to your state rep, you'll do it. And that has actually helped tremendously get some bills across. And so even if you have a small group of parents who are willing to say, yeah, you can send me action alerts, I'll sign a little to get that mominous bill package across the line. Like, yeah, I'm down. That can go really far because after so many emails, they have to respond and they have to look into the issue. And so it does do something. But again, it's the low key. They can do it on their phone while they're waiting for pickup, kind of a thing. So try to think of what is the most low key thing you could possibly do to help contribute to the conversation of childcare and youth engagement advocacy.
And then if I could add one more thing, I think also checking to see if there's anyone else that can attend. I know a lot of times when we want someone to be in the room, we're like, if you can't be in the room, can you send someone else who maybe can be in the room and take notes for you, or who would be beneficial? Maybe a grandparent, maybe an uncle or aunt, maybe you have a neighbor down the street who doesn't have any kids that could just sit in and take notes and be an advocate that day for the issue and bring it back to you. So I just wanted to add that as well, seeing who else in our community we may have who could show up for us.
I would say come and bring them.
Yeah.
Right? And we can come and then bring them too, so we can have a bigger network for sure.
Bring somebody. Also, just thinking back to my childhood, my parents took me to stuff. Like we were like, oh, we gotta go, or it's boring. We maybe find some other children to play with while the adults are talking, but we're also getting that information, whether we like it or not. We're receiving it, and it's being imprinted. Like community activation and being involved in the community is important, right? That was what was imprinted on me and my siblings. That this is something that we do, whether you get paid or not. And so that's important. Speaking of pay, you kind of touched on that in terms of how do you compensate your advocates? Right? Is this a taboo? Right? Do we pay people to become advocates, to volunteer? And like a lot of us here are professionals. We're getting paid to be here in this meeting right now. But we also expect our parents to come and volunteer to take a trip up to Lansing and be part of it. And so that's attention. And just wanted to hear people's reactions around paying advocates, whether it be a stipend, whether it be a gas card or a gift card, or what's your experience? I know there's different levels, so you're not gonna probably not pay someone to sign a letter, but if you're becoming at a tier 3, or being more involved and coming to meetings and out there canvassing, going door to door and things like that, how do people think about that, those type of things?
I can talk on that.
Okay.
I work with teachers, we do all things childcare in Grand Rapids, but we were just given a grant to expand our efforts from 5 county region to 13. So we can't always be together, so we're asking a lot of these childcare providers and parents and advocates in early childcare to come monthly, typically, to about an hour and a half. That's a lot of time, and some of these parents are caring for their children, other children, there's pickup times involved, and then these people are actual childcare providers in their home. So what we try to do with our stipends is to tell them that their time is valuable, their lived experience is valuable, and it's not always the monetary amount that brings them in, but they're willing to come just because they know that they're professionals, they're experts in their field, and it gives them a chance to tell their story.
And if I could add too, as someone who works in policy, right, half of my work is data and telling people the numbers that sometimes they don't want to believe are true, but are true, right? And the other part is the human side of it, right? Some people, they can't always put a face to when I say kids don't have always public defenders, right? That doesn't mean as much as when I tell them about a young man who's been through XYZ at this age, right? That is that young person's story. And so if that young person is coming with me to Lansing because they're passionate about the issue, but they are bearing that story that is probably always very challenging, I think you have to, in good faith, compensate them for that. Because that is a labor. It's a different type of labor, right? I'm on the clock right now. But for that young person to share that experience, especially in a policy setting when maybe they're testifying and you have all these faces looking at you that aren't always kind, I think you have to compensate as a means to say, like, at minimum, just that I respect you, I see you, and what you are giving me right now is labor and it is work, and I appreciate it.
I think I wanted to add to it, I always call it the third side of the coin, that skinny side of the coin, is that we gotta be very careful too with the compensation of advocates and different things, because we have to make sure like you said, something key data, and sometimes data can be skewed, but also data can speak to something that don't fit our lived experience, right? So it gets to these gray areas where if you have to be careful not to use the incentives to keep, like, if you know you got people that's desperate, sometimes they'll say whatever you feel they need to be said based off the energy in the space. So we have to be very intentional on how we use incentives, because we may get to integrity and things like that oftentimes don't get discussed in these spaces. But I watch vulnerable populations get taken advantage of with incentives as well. So we gotta be very intentional. And that's a deep level thing, top down and bottom up.
Yeah.
I just want to say, it reminds me of something that we kind of talk about at Mother and Justice when organizing is meeting mamas where they're at. So I think meeting people where they're at. So I think it goes to what you said, like, yeah, we wouldn't want to do this with every meeting or every conversation we have, because then that's what people are going to look, or people may just attend and be in the room just because they can get something out of it. So we don't want to do that. But we definitely want to meet people where they're at. And I think Jen was definitely speaking on that. Like, if we know that we have a youth that's coming to pour out and tell their story, then that would be something totally different. Like, that would be like, we would want to meet that youth where they're at and give them compensation for that. But if we had, like what this young lady mentioned, we have child care providers and educators, it's like, yeah, like, we will maybe want to compensate you, but hey, this is what you do, this is the work that you do. Like, most likely you're paid to be here anyway, like, you're just showing up. So I think it's just really just meeting people where they are and distinguishing what the different crowds are. So knowing, like, hey, I recognize that, this community is without this, that, and the other, and this is what we can assure here. And I recognize that this community may just, they might not need compensation. They might just need some follow-ups. They may just need us to call them 3 times within the 2 weeks so that we know that they're showing up. They just need follow-up calls. But then we may know this community over here may need an extra
some extra help and to get there, so I just wanted to add that as well.
I was just gonna say, probably 22 years ago, I was involved in some of the same kind of conversation with United Way in one of our large counties in Michigan, and what we were having difficulty with was getting volunteers during the workday, right? During work hours, because people need to get paid, they can't just take unpaid time off. So we found a way to write a program. I don't have the details of it any longer, but it probably wouldn't be hard to reproduce. We wrote a program with, because the United Way was a 501c3, whatever, right? We were able to give employers tax receipts for their employees' time to volunteer. So that person still got paid for the day, they didn't take a sick day, or they did like a flex time kind of thing. The organization they worked for got a tax receipt for donating that time to this organization's advocacy. And I tell that story every time I'm in a space like this, because it is a really powerful way to also then get your community partner employers and organizations to see importance in what you're advocating for, and eventually, now they're partnering over just someone's 8 hours, right? Eventually they partner with sponsorships or small, or buying the coffee for something or whatever, right? If you can find a way to partner with those employers to get those moms who really can't take the day off, and if they're taking the day off and using state funding for childcare, they've lost the hours because they didn't go to work, it's a disaster, right? So keep them on the clock, work with their employer.
I love that, that's great.
It's really powerful,
Yes,
it
that-
really worked, it changed the way the United Way was able to do like some early childhood literacy stuff and whatever, but I mean, it's probably been 22 years since we wrote that.
Since just really to that point, I did a thing where I was getting compensated a great amount, like as a lived experience person for
Yep.
my consulting, but it was doing, I had to take off work, so I lost the 8 hours, but the pay was so good. I'm like, okay, it's
It
working.
didn't matter.
But then it was like, when I did the math, I was like, okay, I'm getting more, but it took 6 weeks for them to process
Yeah.
that.
Well,
So
and
I
then
lost.
at the end of the year, they sent you a 1099, you had to pay
So,
some tax on that too,
it
and you
didn't
had
feel
planned
good.
on that, right? There was no withholding, right? There's all kinds of wacky things that happen when we just compensate with cash for people. But if you can compensate the employers in some way and let them compensate the person.
And I think that matters, because I wanna show up sometimes, and I don't even have children, you guys yet, but sometimes I wanna show up, but I know if I was a mother, like, showing up would be really hard for me. So if I know I can show up during business hours or during what time I'm at work, that would be ideal for me, even if I had to fill out a 1099 at the end of the year, like, at least I'm able to show up in my community how I want to. I'm able to still show up for my family at home, and I still can show up for work too. It seems like the best of both worlds.
So, question. So what are some ways that, that's just how I say this, different types of advocates, right? And so you heard this morning, not everybody needs a microphone. What are some unique ways that you may have used or recruited different skill sets to your advocacy work that you're doing, right? So it might be, all right, we need an accountant, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to, this could be for everyone in the crowd and for the panel, kind of unique ways that you've used and recruited advocates.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump on this one. I think when you're having, I'm the onboarding lead with Brandon Student High, and part of our process is, in order to be like fully onboarded into the organization, you need to have 2 one-on-ones with 2 different members. And in those one-on-ones, you're asking questions like about what kind of skills do you have? And some people, maybe they're super introverted, but they are, on a spreadsheet, they can do anything. And once you can figure out what those skills are, it's about kind of plugging those people in where it makes sense, because a lot of organizing work is list work. It's, do you have that person's phone number? Do you have that person's email? If you don't, well, I guess we're out of luck on that one. And so figuring out what skills people have and then plugging them in where it makes sense. But I think it also having, I'm the onboarding lead, we have somebody who is the data lead. And so having a point person for different parts of your organization so that, oh, this person's good at data, you should talk to this person over here. And then maybe even for your second one-on-one, I'll set you up with that person so that you two build relationship and trust there. Anybody else have anything to say on this?
I think you, as Kyle, I think you also have to be very versatile in how you go out and seek these individuals. I'm not a social media person, but I have a dad that's part of our network who is all he does. So here's the content, put it on there for me, buddy. And this is all we're putting on this particular page, is the content that I'm asking him to put on there. But then we're also looking for grandparents, right? The method that they put their children to sleep back in the 60s is different than what it is now. We got different technology, we got different terminology, we got different things going. So we want to get them in as well to give them the education that they need to keep these babies safe, right? Again, so you have to definitely be very versatile on how you go about doing it. The grandparents may want to finish up with a bingo. We got the bingo ready for them. And it's going to be education based. As they're playing bingo, they're also learning about these safe sleep things, so on and so forth. So just being creative in what you're doing and knowing your audience and what you're looking out for sure.
I just want to add being able to identify your overlooked allies. Like, not just going for, hey, the school, or I'm gonna go up to the school, or I'm gonna go up to my daycare and look for my community or look for parents, but saying, hey, I'm gonna go to the barbershop. Or I know I go to this coffee shop once a week and I see a couple people coming in and out. I'm gonna sit at the coffee shop and see who I can meet. Or let me run into some of the coaches or the parents that's at the different games. So I think just identifying people who can help, or even faith leaders. So, hey, maybe I can run into the pastor where maybe on Sunday they'll let me come and pass out a letter that it can get to the whole community for the people who show up on Sunday. Just finding people who can eventually be on your team and be advocators, but not necessarily, they're just not in front of you. So you may not know, like, hey, they want to help me, or they'll be interested in what I'm doing. But going out and kind of finding them and seeking them and pulling them closer to you and letting them know the work you do.
If I could just add real quick, surveys, like anonymously, right? I'll tell you all you want to know. If you don't know, that's me who wrote it, right? And then I'll give you some good information. So there's nothing wrong with putting a survey out there, trying to figure that information out. Once we get it, we can corral it and say, okay, 6 of you guys had a pretty unique request. We'll talk to you guys over there. But at least we'll have the information.
Carrie with Dochess. I just wanted to share something that my coworker started. She's a badass. I'm sorry about my language, but it's true. She started a youth collaborative meeting once a month in Hillsdale County. So everybody that's involved in youth, we meet once a month, we take turns hosting, bring lunch, and then we find out what services everybody offers, so that we're not, trying to do something that somebody else specializes in, and so that we know all the services that they all offer. So, yeah.
And they started that in Lenawee County a couple of years ago from the juvenile court systems. She started that, and it's been running over 2 years, and we'll go to what's one of the places that we've gone to? Goodwill Industries, and see all the services that they provide for those kiddos. And I had no idea. I've lived in Lenawee County since I was 12 years old. Didn't know that they had those services for youth. So it was really cool, but it took the juvenile justice administrator to say, hey, we're doing this, and all of her probation officers come to every meeting. And you have your Michigan Works, and you have school counselors, and you have Kenny Vento, and you have any of the youth people coming together. And we're starting that in Hillsdale County, as we're very under-resourced there. And
we also already have an idea of what our families need, right? We know the resources that they need, find them in abundance, right? And let's not just stop, but I found one organization that does taxes for lower income. Let's find 4 or 5. So if this one runs out, we've got more. But we already know the resources that our families need as advocates. Let's go out there and find those things. Let's talk to other people. Let's collaborate, as you say in the audience. Let's collaborate and get together and figure out how we as 3 or 4 entities can come together and be an even bigger thing.
And not to be offensive, but there's a lot of agencies where you work. I can do a teenager any day, but some of these adults are just.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's always the adults. It's never
Sure.
kids.
I'd rather talk to a teenager than a state rep
Absolutely. And so the people that we've invited to this collaborative, like, I know that I can bring these kids to that organization, but there's some that I do not. I'll say, yep, there's this agency that can do this, but I don't bring them there. Because I know they will get slapped in the face and pushed down or whatever else, you know, with their ideas or what they wanna do. You've gotta have that strong safety net for these kiddos. They don't need one more thing. They don't need that one more thing.
You've gotta bring them together first to figure out whose attitude you have to adjust.
Yeah.
Like that's, I claim to be the chief attitude adjustment officer for the state of Michigan. Like I'm just not interested. I really like what you're saying and I think you meant this. I was like, I always reframe it. I'm like, I think you have a really great idea, but what you meant was this over here, right? Because that's what you've got to bring the people together to figure out who it is that needs to understand it differently, and then you have to help swing their perspective. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure everybody in the room knew that every community in our state has an early childhood collaborative through Great Start. So if you're not involved in that, and if your organizations, you should definitely join. And they all have family coalitions that have parents that should be doing this work too. So if you don't know, I can help you find it.
I've run programs like TANF and others that have a work requirement, and any volunteer work or bringing them in for training or advocacy or whatever. I told my staff, you always let them count that as a part of their work requirement. And also, if they're developing skills, it's something that they can put on their resume, and you help with incorporating that so that they can use it to leverage future employment.
Anytime I work with teenagers, especially as they kind of, you know, maybe age out, where they start to kind of transition away, I always teach them, I send them a copy of paste this on your resume, if you have one, if you don't have one, let's make one, and then how do you actually say in a job interview, what was this fellowship? Like how do you, what did you accomplish, and make sure they have that down, so then that way, to your point, it can be leveraged, especially when we're working with young people who they might have never, you might be their last stop before their first job interview.
Well, and you've given them a last bit of value as they leave your program. You're telling them how valuable they were, and that you're giving them something to take with them, no matter where their career takes them. You know, I mean, you can wash cars and still be proud of the fact that you advocated for yourself and you made change for everyone else coming behind you, right? It doesn't matter, but you gave them that value and that language. There's more power in giving people that self-empowerment than there is in anything else we can do and say.
Yeah. This gentleman just kind of triggered me when he said work requirements, and thinking about the budget that was just approved, and the situation that we are in this country overall. It really makes our work even more important as advocates, harder. There's going to be much more need coming down the pipeline. We're already in need. In the work that we do, we were talking about Hope Starts Here. 10 years when we first started 9 years ago, we were fighting to change the status quo, and now today we're just fighting to maintain a status quo. And so, just as a group conversation, how are we preparing for this kind of onslaught of need and need for advocacy? And yeah, just wanted to have that there. We have like 4 minutes left.
Really quick, I think for us, the juvenile justice system has always been a pendulum. So every few decades or so, kids are really great, kids are really bad, kids are really great. I'm always on the kids are really great side. But for me, it's, even though it can be hard and you should set parameters, but you have to follow hyper-local, especially media, news specifically, like Bridge, Michigan, the Free Press, like you gotta follow to see and watch the narratives and watch those key warning words. So for me, if I ever see the word super predator, I lose my mind, right? It's from the 80s, but it's still, you'll hear it every now and then, and that's how you can start to follow, okay, this is the messaging I need to be equipped to absolutely counter, absolutely tackle, and be able to prove and be very, very readily prepped to absolutely say when a rep or whoever tells me all kids are committing felony offenses in the state of Michigan. I am very quick to say, actually, statistically, boom, right? Like, I knew it was coming. So it can be hard and draining to follow the media right now, but that is where you find, and just skim for your keywords that are concerning to your line of work. And I think that's how I always stay braced, and I've been planning for that for about a year now, and so now it's dusting off those plans and countering those narratives and figuring out how we can find that common ground.
Jen, I'm gonna add on real quick, very much correct in following trends, and what we wanna do is we wanna put those trends in front of our parents, show them what's going on, and then help them understand if this is not what we want, this is what we need to do. That's part of our advocacy, helping them understand how to change things. We're not gonna change anything throwing rocks at the building. We've got to organize, get more people like us organized, and then go into the front door of that building and let them know this is what we got a problem with. Or at least, who do we take this information to? A lot of our parents have got fights, but they don't know who to take it to. Helping them understand who to call, whose emails do we need to flood, helping them understand that along the way.
And on the point about organizing, and to this question, within like a historical context of where we live now, I would really recommend reading Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community. Yeah, and there's a section in there specifically where he talks about, you know, these nonviolent demonstrations, like they're great, they do a lot of stuff, but they don't go far enough, and we need to build units of power. And a unit of power could be a labor union coming together in your workplace. It could be some sort of political party or a voting bloc of some kind coming together. Or tenants coming together and people coming together. So that's what we do at Rennes Student High, is talking to tenants to organize within their buildings, organize within their neighborhoods. Because those are the people that you see every day. Those are the people that are right there in your community. And when we come together, we have more power to negotiate, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, or anywhere else.
And I just wanted to add, especially when we're talking with our youth and raising our youth, to just let them know that no issue is too small. Like, no issue is too small. And start to teach the kids, like I know, if you have 2 and 3 and 4-year-olds, start teaching them how to advocate just for maybe what they want to eat on Fridays. Or where, like, hey, if you want pizza, show me how bad you want pizza. Like, I'll show you how to convince me that you want pizza. Like, really starting small and recognizing that, we're gonna have bigger issues, but it starts with the smaller ones, and none of them go overlooked.
Thank you, Kendall.